The crack of wood against rubber echoed across the field. Arjun threw the ball against the brick wall, tracked its erratic bounce, and swung. The bat, heavy and taped at the handle, sliced through the hot, dry air. He did not miss. Dust kicked up around his feet with every movement, coating his skin in a fine gray film. A man walking along the nearby road stopped, watched the rhythmic thud for a moment, and laughed. He gestured toward Arjun, his voice cutting through the stillness. "You are wasting your time. Look at yourself. You will never make it." Arjun did not look up. He did not stop. He reached down, retrieved the ball from the dirt, and tossed it against the bricks again. The passerby shook his head and walked on, but the rhythmic sound continued, steady and unbroken. Arjun stepped into the next delivery, his eyes locked on the ball. He swung with deliberate force, the impact vibrating up his arms. The ball ricocheted back, and he caught it mid-air, ready for the next. The world outside the field ceased to exist. The sun dipped below the skyline, ending his practice. Arjun tossed the bat into the corner of the shed, grabbed his heavy delivery bag, and mounted his bike. The town streets were a maze of steep inclines and uneven gravel. He spent the next 4 hours navigating the traffic, his back hunched against the weight of a dozen parcels. At every doorstep, he climbed stairs until his calves burned and his breath came in short, jagged gasps. The constant vibration of the handlebars numbed his palms. His body demanded rest, but his mind refused to yield. With every slow rotation of the pedals, he visualized the cricket pitch. He saw the white crease. He felt the weight of the bat in his hands. He imagined the sound of the ball hitting the center of the wood. The ache in his legs became a metronome for his ambition. He pushed through the exhaustion, climbing the final hill of the night with a steady, rhythmic pressure. The struggle was not a burden. It was the fuel for his next day. He reached the final house, dropped the package, and turned the bike back toward home. The distance mattered little. He was already playing the game in his head. Years later, the local tournament reached its breaking point. The scoreboard flickered under the harsh glare of the afternoon sun, displaying the final tally. 10 runs required from just 6 balls. The crowd surged forward, pressing against the boundary ropes, their voices a rising tide of anticipation and doubt. They shouted for the bowler, a local favorite, while the air hung heavy with static and dust. Arjun stood near the edge of the pitch, watching the grass. He did not look at the spectators. He did not acknowledge the jeers that drifted from the grandstand. He adjusted his grip on the handle, his fingers finding the familiar, taped surface. The bowler sprinted in, his spikes tearing into the pitch with rhythmic, aggressive thuds. Arjun walked to the crease, his movements measured and slow. He tapped the ground twice, smoothed the patch of dirt with his boot, and took his stance. The bowler reached the top of his mark, turned, and stared down the length of the pitch. Silence descended on the field, thick and suffocating. Arjun looked up, eyes locked on the bowler's release point. The final over had begun. Every heartbeat felt like a hammer strike against the stillness of the stadium. The first ball hissed through the air, a vicious bouncer that forced Arjun to drop to his knees. He ducked, the ball whistling inches above his head. The crowd groaned. Arjun stood, brushed the dust from his knees, and tapped the crease again. He ignored the bowler's taunts. He watched the release point, not the man. Ball 2, ball 3, ball 4. Each one played with surgical precision, keeping his team in the hunt. With 2 balls remaining, the pressure became a physical weight. The final delivery arrived, fast and aimed at his hip. Arjun didn't panic. He shifted his weight, pivoted on his back foot, and swung with a clean, fluid arc. The wood connected with a sound like a gunshot. The ball climbed, clearing the boundary rope and disappearing into the distance. The stadium erupted, but Arjun didn't cheer. He simply walked toward the pavilion. In the stands, the state coach stood up, his gaze locked on the boy who'd refused to break under the pressure. He signaled for a meeting. That one shot, that one moment of absolute calm had opened the door. Arjun had earned his ticket to the state selection camp, and his life was about to change forever. The state selection camp was a vast, concrete arena filled with the sound of leather striking wood. Hundreds of young hopefuls swarmed the nets, swinging with desperate, raw power. They wanted to be seen, to hit the hardest, to throw the fastest. Arjun watched from the sidelines, his grip tightening on his bat. He did not rush to the front. When his turn finally arrived, he stepped into the net and ignored the crowd. He did not aim for the rafters. He focused on the gap between the fielders, his swing a precise repeating machine. 1 ball, 2, 6, 12, every shot found its mark with rhythmic consistency. While others sprinted between drills, Arjun walked. He was the first through the gate each morning, dragging the heavy equipment bags, and the last to leave the pitch as the floodlights flickered off. The coaches stood on the periphery, watching the fielders scramble while Arjun maintained his steady, relentless pace. He didn't need to shout to be noticed. He simply outlasted every challenger, his discipline carving a path through the noise. By the end of the first week, the scouts were no longer looking at the power hitters. They were watching the boy who refused to waste a single movement. The selection camp was only the beginning. Arjun moved from the state nets to the National Academy, his routine never wavering. He stopped being the quiet boy in the corner and started organizing the drills. When teammates argued over technique, he walked to the center, placed the ball on the turf, and demonstrated the correction without a word. His authority was not built on status, but on the undeniable evidence of his results. Years blurred into a cycle of early morning training and late-night film study. He learned to read the field like a map, anticipating the shift of the wind and the fatigue of the opposition. His teammates began to look to him when the scoreboards turned against them. They saw the same composure that had once been dismissed on a dusty street. The official announcement came on a Tuesday. The board of selectors gathered the squad in the locker room, and as the name was read, there was no surprise. Arjun stepped forward, his expression unchanged. He was no longer just a player carrying a bag. He was the tactical mind leading the national side. The transition was complete. He looked at the team, offered a sharp nod, and began planning the first strategy meeting. The captaincy was a weight, but he had spent a lifetime training to carry it. The stadium air was thick, vibrating with the roar of 50,000 voices. On the pitch, the situation had curdled into a disaster. The fifth wicket fell, a soft catch to the covers, and the team batting order was hemorrhaging. The dugout was a graveyard of slumped shoulders and blank stares. Arjun sat on the bench, watching the dismissed player walk back, his head buried in his hands. He stood up, the movement slow and deliberate. He picked up his bat, checking the grip tape with steady fingers. The noise of the crowd seemed to drop away, replaced by the rhythmic thud of his own pulse. He walked toward the center of the field, his gait measured, eyes fixed only on the 22 yards of turf ahead. He did not look at the scoreboard. He did not look at the hostile faces in the stands. As he reached the crease, he stopped, tapped his heels into the dirt, and bent down to adjust his shoelaces. It was a small, mundane action, but it grounded him. He stood up, took his guard, and looked toward the bowler. The weight of a nation pressed against his chest, but his breathing remained shallow and controlled. He was the anchor, and the storm was about to break. The game slowed to a crawl under his direction. Arjun played the gaps, rotating the strike with singles that drained the opposition of their momentum. He ignored the frantic appeals from the fielders and the screaming crowd. Every movement was a calculation, every shot a defensive necessity. The target narrowed until only 6 runs remained from the final 2 balls. The bowler sprinted in, eyes wide with desperation, and launched a full delivery aimed at the stumps. Arjun shifted his weight, pivoted on his back foot, and swung. The wood met the ball with a sound like a gunshot. It climbed, arcing high and deep, clearing the boundary rope by 10 rows. The stadium transformed into a wall of sound. Confetti rained down from the rafters as his teammates sprinted toward him, arms outstretched. Arjun stood in the center of the pitch, his expression unchanged. He watched the ball vanish into the stands, then turned to the bowler. He walked forward, reached out, and shook the opponent's hand firmly. The trophy was in his reach, but he stood as if he had simply finished a morning practice on a dusty field. He did not jump. He did not shout. He simply walked toward the pavilion, his pace steady, leaving the chaos behind him. Years later, the silence of the countryside replaced the roar of the stadium. Arjun pulled his car to a halt beside the familiar stretch of dry, cracked earth. A small group of children stood near the road, watching as he opened the trunk. He hauled out heavy wooden crates, the wood groaning under the weight of new bats and fresh, stitched cricket balls. He set them down on the dust, the impact sending up small puffs of gray powder. The children rushed forward, their hands reaching for the gear, but he gestured for them to wait. He walked past them, his boots crunching against the hard, sun-baked ground until he reached the center of the pitch. He stopped and turned back toward the wall. It was still there, weathered and scarred from thousands of impacts. He traced the line of a deep dent in the brickwork with his thumb. The sun sat low on the horizon, casting long, sharp shadows across the clearing. He remained there for a long moment, watching the dust motes dance in the dying light, the same view he had seen every morning before his life changed. The circle was complete. Arjun beckoned the children to gather around the crates. He pulled out a bat, the handle wrapped in fresh tape, and held it out toward a young girl standing at the front. She reached for it, but he held her hand steady, guiding her fingers to the correct position on the wood. "Success is not a sprint," he said, his voice level and clear. "It is the discipline you show when no one is watching." He stepped back, letting her feel the weight of the bat in her grip. She looked from the wood to the wall, then back to him. He nodded once, a brief gesture of confirmation, and turned toward his car. He did not look back as he pulled onto the road, the engine hum fading into the distance. The children remained on the pitch, their attention shifting from the crates to the wall. One by one, they picked up the gear and moved toward the brickwork. The dust kicked up by their running feet rose into the air, catching the final rays of the sun. The legend of the boy who turned dust into gold lived on in the rhythm of wood hitting brick, a steady, repetitive sound that filled the clearing long after he had gone.